This video is sponsored by Trip.com. Hello, and welcome back to the 10th instalment of my Failed Franchises series. In this series, I look at whether defunct rail franchises should be deemed as failed, whether this be their contract being stripped from them or their franchise simply being deemed poor by the public and industry. In today's video, I'll look at the second instalment of my 5-part mini-series regarding the Anglian franchises. Watch part 1 of First Great Eastern now. Today's franchise is the Intercity Anglia franchise, operated by Anglia Railways. Although short-lasting, from 1997 to 2004, Anglia could well be classed as a failure by the public and industry for several reasons. But can they truly be classed as a failed franchise? That's what I'll discuss in today's video. Firstly, we need to look at how the Anglian rail system worked upon privatisation. Unlike today, where all services along the Great Eastern Main Line and West Anglia Main Line are operated under a single franchise, upon privatisation in 1997, the region was split between 3 different franchises: the Intercity Anglian franchise, the West Anglia Great Northern franchise, and the Great Eastern franchise. Today, we'll look at the Intercity Anglian franchise operator, Anglia Railways. Great British Railways won the Intercity Anglian franchise on the 4th of December 1996, with the franchise running for 8 years, until 2004. GB Railways chose the brand name Anglia Railways, with the company commencing operations on the 5th of January 1997, with a contract until 2004. Unlike the previous operator I looked at, First Great Eastern, Anglia Railways were a much more intercity-focused operator. The operator ran the entire length of the Great Eastern Main Line from London Liverpool Street to Norwich and Harwich, utilising electric Class 86 and diesel Class 47s, hauling Mark II coaches built in the 1960s and 70s, with a driving brake standard open control unit used on every service as well. As well as this, Anglia operated regional services towards Cambridge, Ely, Peterborough, Sheringham, Felixstowe, Lowestoft and Great Yarmouth, utilising a mixture of loco-hauled and DMU stock, such as the Class 150s and Class 153s. Their fleet was given a brand new livery on the 10th of June 1998, with all units receiving its famous turquoise and white livery. As part of the franchise commitment, Anglia increased the Norwich to London services to 2 trains an hour, but struggled with the availability of stock. To amend this, in 1998, Anglia ordered 8 3-car Class 170 Turbostar diesel units. However, due to late delivery, Anglia utilised some Class 317 and Class 322 electric multiple units from West Anglia Great Northern. On the 22nd of May 2000, Anglia began operating a brand new service called London Crosslink. The route ran from Norwich to Basingstoke, avoiding central London, and was operated by the brand new Class 170s, currently at 19 stations and running up to 6 times a day. By 2000, with the Class 170s having been delivered, with some being sent to sister company Whole Trains, who I've also done a full video on, Anglia's service was much improved, and they ended 2000 by being hailed as the Train Operator of the Year. Anglia were also runner-up on the Integrated Transport Award and On-Train Innovation Developments Award. Overall, services were running well, and Anglia was praised for its service. On top of this, to promote off-peak travel, Anglia introduced cheaper fares to London. If you arrived after 9:30 in the morning and left London after 7 p.m. Anglia offered these tickets through post only, however, and they had to be purchased at least 5 days in advance. Also in 2001, a new bus link started in conjunction with Anglia Railways from Norwich to tourist attractions such as the Bure Valley Railway and local National Trust heritage sites. This helped to connect attractions to tourists visiting from London and afar. As well as this, Anglia ordered a further 4 2-car Class 170s to strengthen their fleet, and Anglia launched a series of onboard improvements. These came in the form of a major deep clean for all its trains, more cleaners across the network, and 20 more customer service staff on board trains. In March 2001, Anglia Rail and the Strategic Rail Authority, SRA, confirmed that a £1 million grant had been given to enhance rural services across the network. The funding would be used for 52 extra trains per week from May 2001, with enhancements affecting the Ipswich to Peterborough lines, the Ipswich to Cambridge lines, and the Norwich to Cromer lines. The route from Ipswich to Felixstowe would also see Sunday services running throughout the year. In the same month, Anglia Railways were praised at the Rail Innovation Awards for their Crosslink service and the Class 170 introduction. By March 2001, speculation was growing over First Group potentially mounting a bid to buy Anglia's parent company, GB Railways. Newspapers suggested that GB Rail had serious money issues following the Hatfield crash and reduced rail patronage, with GB Rail shares falling 65%. However, no formal bid was made until 2003. Anglia also invested over £2.5 million in new car parks across the network, including at Stowmarket and Ipswich, as well as CCTV across all stations along the network as part of franchise agreements. In May, Anglia was voted Europe's best train operator, with Chief Executive Jeremy Long suggesting the award was deserved, with the company committed to delivering rail services for Anglia. However, Anglia's Mark II coaches and Class 86 electric locomotives were becoming tired, with rumours of a merger of Anglia's rail franchises in the near future potentially opening paths towards fleet replacements, with no contractual requirements for Anglia to replace its ageing Mark II fleet. However, there was something to look forward to for Anglia: a new direct Cambridge to Norwich service. On the 2nd of May, the SRA announced £9.2 million had been awarded for a direct Cambridge to Norwich service. The announcement, which would see up to 15 services per day, was met with huge praise from local rail groups. With the announcement, Anglia confirmed that 4 Class 170s ordered previously in 2001 would be used on the route, but the service would only be able to begin after these units were delivered, with an estimated starting date of December 2002. This grant by the SRA was the largest to date from the Rail Passenger Partnership and would reinstate a service that ceased in 1985. In the same month, the Strategic Rail Authority announced plans of a franchise merger where West Anglia Great Northern, Anglia Railways and First Great Eastern would all merge into one combined Greater Anglia franchise. Anglia's public relations manager, Peter Meads, suggested he was strongly against the move, saying there would be a loss of focus on rural routes. Regardless, Anglia suggested that they would bid for a Greater Anglia franchise if one was confirmed. In July 2001, Anglia confirmed that they had received £100,000 funding from the Community Rail Partnership for extra Norwich to Great Yarmouth services for the summer timetable to ensure more holidaymakers could make the trip to the seaside. Regardless of this, 80% of Anglian passengers suggested they wanted cheaper fares. However, they did acknowledge the government had blame on this, as they believed the Department for Transport wasn't doing enough to improve the railways. Anglia, however, did receive some negativity from their slow customer service and regular delays from passengers. In October 2001, Anglia was named the Best Operator of the Year by the Cycle Mark Awards, which were sponsored by the Strategic Rail Authority. Anglia, according to the awards, showed commitment to cyclists and passengers over its years of operation. Not only did they modify trains to carry bikes, but also offered cheaper bike fares on local lines to encourage cyclists. They also became the first operator to install bike locks at all of its stations. In November, the company spent £15,000 on real-time information systems for departure boards at stations and online from computers or mobile phones. The company also introduced an alert system via text message and email, and was one of the first operators to introduce a system like this. To round off the year, a fire on a train outside Colchester occurred on the 1st of December. A 35-year-old Class 86 engine was set alight, with the driver of the unit praised for the smooth evacuation of all 120 people on board. The fire, caused by excessive wheel slip due to a line obstruction, did cause major delays throughout the day, and is another prime example of Railtrack, the precursor to Network Rail, failing to ensure passenger safety after a string of major crashes and incidents across the country. As well as this, an end-of-year report saw that Anglia's parent company, GB Railways, had lost £1.8 million that year. The company blamed the Hatfield crash, which had affected Hull Trains' services as well, which had led to passenger numbers decreasing from the incident. Anglia Railways also ended the year with a lower punctuality rating of 84%. Although high, this was not top spot and was below the target of 88%. The main reason for this was an ageing fleet of locos and carriages, which Anglia had no incentive to replace, with there being nothing in its contract regarding fleet replacements, leading to countless delays and cancellations, which hindered Anglia's image. Just like at the end of 2001, 2002 didn't start brilliantly for Anglia either. In January, the company had the highest fare increases in the country, with some season tickets from Norwich to Liverpool Street increasing by a whopping 27%, something that received huge public backlash. Now, if you don't want high rail fares when travelling, you should listen in to today's sponsor. When I travel across the UK, I always look for the cheapest rail tickets possible, and Trip.com certainly helps me achieve this. Not only do they have no booking fees, unlike other train websites, but they also use split ticketing to make journeys as cheap as possible. As well as this, Trip.com are giving Van Manio viewers up to 5% off UK train tickets with the code UKExtra5. As well as this, using the code SPECIAL20, viewers can get up to 20% off rail cards as well by purchasing through Trip.com and using the code at checkout. Trip.com is a safe, secure site that offers flights, hotels, cars and attraction tickets too. So why not check out the link in the description below to sign up to Trip.com and make sure to use the codes UKExtra5 and Special20 to get money off your next trip. Thanks for Trip.com for sponsoring. Now let's get back into the video. Elsewhere in 2002, reliability on services operated by the Class 170s was at an all-time low, with the Class 170s being withdrawn for a period to undergo engine replacements following a series of breakdowns. As well as this, constant delays around London Liverpool Street led to Anglia and First Great Eastern having daily meetings to try and reduce delays into the terminus. In February, Anglia announced that they would start their new flagship Cambridge to Norwich service in the winter-December timetable. They would use 3 two-car Class 170s out of the 4 new units that they ordered. The 170s would have first class and would be able to complete the journey in roughly 70 minutes. For the May timetable change, Anglia also confirmed it would increase services to Sheringham and terminate more crosslink services to Norwich in an attempt to bring up passenger numbers on the route. After the May timetable change, in July, Anglia announced it would exit crosslink service at the start of the winter timetable. Anglia suggested that they would pool funding from the route, which had very low passenger numbers, to instead boost services locally. Anglia suggested that it failed to meet passenger demand and its expectations were wildly different from actual numbers. The lack of clock-face departures and differing terminus points led to low passenger numbers, with Anglia wanting to ramp up the services to hourly. However, the SRA could not confirm that there would be enough paths to make this happen. The company also wanted to trial services going as far south as Southampton, but again, pathing was an issue. The service ceased in December 2002. The Class 170s were reallocated throughout the network and helped boost services to Peterborough and Cambridge from Ipswich. In more positive news in August for Anglia, they confirmed it would trial some electric Class 90 locomotives to be used on some services instead of the ageing and unreliable Class 86s. The locos, built in the 80s and 90s, were hired from Freightliner, with Anglia hoping that reliability would increase on the routes. It did, and thus they extended the lease until the end of their franchise. Sadly, there were only 3 locos available for services, so Class 86s still had to be used, and continued to be unreliable despite attempts to rehaul and modify the locos. At the beginning of the winter 2002 timetable, the new Cambridge to Norwich service started running. The service was seen as a huge success, with the first few trains being standing room only. Anglia had special guests invited, such as the Norwich Mayor, and also invited jazz bands to play at both termini stations. The route bolstered frequencies for many intermediate stations, such as Wymondham and March, and was deemed a huge success. This came with Anglia once again being named Operator of the Year for 2002 by Cycling Mark. In 2003, Anglia confirmed it was undergoing refurbishment of its Mark II coaching stock. The refurbishment would see new air conditioning units installed, as well as reliability improvements given the coaches were built in the 1960s. In August, Anglia's ownership changed hands into First Group. The company purchased GB Railways and its other operator, Hull Trains. Unlike Hull, First decided to keep the Anglian branding the same, especially given that the SRA had confirmed that the franchises would be merged in just a year's time into the larger Greater Anglia franchise. Also in 2003, in October, the 500,000th passenger of the Cambridge to Norwich service had already been transported. Cake and champagne was given out across the day, in which the 500,000 mark was met. Anglia said passenger numbers were 30% higher than they had anticipated, and passengers wanted a better late-night service. However, with the news in December that National Express had won the new Greater Anglia franchise, not First, Anglia were in no hurry to improve their service frequencies. Although the outgoing Anglia won Operator of the Year, they had no reason to improve frequencies with just months left until they handed over their franchise. Although First were disappointed to have not won the franchise, which I delved into in more detail in my previous video, The Anglia Railways Company had achieved a lot, and by the 31st of March 2004, Anglian Railways was no more. National Express 1 Anglia was its replacement. So surely, Anglia Railways can't be deemed as a failure. Well, Anglia did improve services across the board and did introduce new services. However, these new services were funded by the SRA wholly, and one, Crosslink, was a total failure. Anglia did little to replace outdated and unreliable stock, with even their brand new Class 170s having issues. Regardless though, in just 7 years of operation, Anglia won many awards and had consistently high approval ratings, so in that sense, they certainly aren't failed. However, what do you think? Did you ever travel on Anglia, and would you claim them as a failed franchise? Let me know in the comments below, and do subscribe so you don't miss the remainder of this Anglian mini-series, as I answer whether the Greater Anglia franchise is truly better than the free franchise system used prior. Also, do consider joining my channel to support me and get some cool perks such as access to private Discord channels and access to videos early. Special thanks to my first class member, Mia Jane, and my Business Zone members, Anthony Harris and Smudgy Cat. Also thanks to Deva Rooney for his donations and membership. Thanks again for Trip.com for sponsoring, and thanks so much for watching. Check out my Twitter, Discord and Instagram in the links below, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.